All right. Hey, it's Uncle D here, and welcome to the Lean Guys podcast. We're rebooting the series here, and we went from two lean guys to the lean guys. It was pointed out by our colleague, Motorcycle Mike, that if our philosophy is the wisdom of flying geese, that there was only two of us. And Mike, what I say to you now about that is we went down with a goose and that goose didn't get better, so we had to move on. So I'm glad that you joined the flock, Mr. Letson. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I thought maybe it was one of you that were going to lay the golden egg, but obviously you needed a little assistance from a third person to really get this thing up and running.
You know, when we started this thing, it was an experiment. And I think it was interesting to sort of even just see myself on camera for the first time. And we weren't planning episodes. We didn't have any equipment. we were just kind of messing around, right, Johnny?
Yeah, it was. Is this even a feasible thing for us to venture into? Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, being thrust forward into this post-COVID situation as a lean trainer and a consultant, innovation guys, you know, of course, we need to adapt. And so I'm glad that you're joining us because it builds a more well-rounded conversation. John and I have enjoyed your efforts with our transformations over the years. So thanks for joining us.
For sure. And my question to you guys is, there have been very famous threesomes throughout history. What threesome would you compare us to, and who would be who in that threesome?
Oh, that's easy for me.
Well, let's hear it.
The Three Stooges.
Oh, Three Stooges. I was going to go with ZZ Top.
Nice. I love ZZ Top.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike?
Well, going to the Three Stooges, who's Mo?
Larry, Curly, and Mo.
Yeah. Who's who?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm Curly.
That actually, yeah, that
Does that make sense?
Absolutely does.
Johnny, you Larry? That makes you Mo, Mike.
That's okay.
All right.
I'm Larry because Larry gets slapped an awful lot. I don't know if you know that in that particular series.
Oh, geez, man. But those were the days. That was pretty good, good stuff. But I'm glad that we're here because the need for us to pivot has driven us to change sort of the whole platform. And I want to see if we can take what we're learning from our customers right now and build a voice for it on the podcast. And Industry 4.0 seems to be the number one thing on everyone's mind to help them rebound and also counter social distancing and sanitation issues with new visual factory and 5S. All of a sudden, people can stand in between the lines. They know how to do it. You know, so for years we've been trying to get tape on the floor just to keep people, you know, or material moving. And now it seems like radical acceptance. I don't know what you guys see, but that's kind of what I'm seeing with a lot of the people that I'm working with.
Yeah, we spent an awful lot of time helping our work cells get tighter and tighter and tighter so that the material flows shorter and shorter and shorter between workstations. And now we're looking at it saying, oh, yeah, not only do we still want to have those people that close together, but now we've got to protect them from each other.
That's right.
And so instead of spreading them all apart and adding roller conveyors in between, it's still better to put some sort of, sneeze guard or something between the operators. And so that we can still get the flow that you want, but still have some sort of personal space, you know. As my wife likes to say, get out of my hula hoop.
Get out of my hula hoop. Yeah. Well, there's a few different pieces there as far as, the factory goes. Of course, the material handling, as you mentioned, the barriers, as you mentioned. We have some smart tech partners, as you guys know, that have software that will let you know if people are within a certain range without giving away their personal information. It doesn't have biometrics. It blurs out their face. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff that I see for smart tech. That's why I'm saying to people like, listen, man, you got to get on board with Industry 4.0 or you're behind if you're just looking at it now.
Yeah, and you know what? It's also helping us on the industrial engineering side with data collection. You know, if we can utilize other pieces of equipment, sensors and cameras and other things to record what's really happening on the floor and take measurements from that, or have it create measurements for what we need and give us the data, then that helps us as well. I would love the idea of being able to look at my cell phone at any point in the day and know for certain that my production flow is moving at the rate that it needs to, and I don't have to worry about adding an overtime shift on Saturday, even though right now it's only Wednesday.
Or having predictive maintenance data say to you, you're about to blow an engine, why don't you replace it before it blows?
Absolutely. I'd love to know that my gearboxes are too hot or whatever.
Mike, you're data master. What are your thoughts?
Trust. So trusting the data. You can have it on your phone all day long, but if you, well, one, if you don't trust it, and two, you don't know what to do. You don't know what that reaction plan is, or that out of control action plan is. You know, what do I do when this happens?
Right.
Those things have to be established as well. I've seen a lot of companies over the years implement ERP systems or just basic MRP systems, and you know, the joke is garbage in, garbage out, and there's no trust there. It's beautiful technology where applicable, but if you continue to work outside the system, because you don't trust the system, you don't trust the data coming out of the system, then it's useless.
I agree 100%. I've got a couple of implementations right now of small family-owned businesses who have essentially legacy MRPs. But in instances where we've been working together for information accuracy, we can trust these systems. And just because their GUIs aren't great and maybe a little bit slow, few extra key, entries, it's accurate down to a nut and bolt. And I tend to want to leave that alone. I think you can lose a ton of money trying to make MRP or ERP be the fix to a broken system.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. And when you automate a broken system, you just end up with an automated broken system.
Right.
And less money.
It's just a classic tale. It's a classic fable.
For sure.
And that's a really good segue too, to lead into not just the pieces and parts that end up in the finished product, but all the MRO materials that are required as well. The maintenance, repairs, and operations. Gloves and safety glasses and armbands that if you're dealing with Kevlar gloves and those kinds of things, right?
Right.
And then even just nuts, bolts, and washers that go to the equipment that make the product, but doesn't go into the product. And that hidden factory, that trust that you're talking about, knowing that when you go to get the parts that you need, and knowing that they're there, that saves the company a tremendous amount of money. And if you don't have that kind of trust, you're going to go to the crib or wherever those parts are stored, and you're going to take more than you need and put those in your toolbox because you don't trust that that's going to be there when you need. And all of a sudden, you've got a whole hidden factory situation going on where you've got all kinds of extra materials and parts throughout the entire plant, and most of it's unnecessary.
Most of it is unnecessary. And the ones that have this two shifts, 3 shifts, large populations. What's that, bud?
And everything is locked.
Everything is locked, and you need some sort of person with a key that that helps you get everything, and it's divvied out. I think the things that have seen that work the best have been when companies embrace systems like Cribmaster.
Absolutely.
Where we've had a lot of success in those bigger companies and smaller companies, quite frankly, in managing materials and controlling materials not for the sake of being a jerk, but for not wasting it.
I think it really comes all the way back to Mike's motorcycle Mike's first point and about the trust.
Right.
You know, once you have that system in place and people trust that when they go to that system, the part that they need is going to be there. It's a whole new ball game, and everybody's saving a ton of money.
Well, I think it's core versus context too. Let's just take a manufacturing company that makes widgets. Well, they're really good at making widgets, and that's what they make money on. So why not bring in an expert? Why not team with a partner that does this other thing really well? Because
Right.
that's their core. That's their core business. So they've mastered it to a sense.
Well, that's the wisdom of flying geese, right? Let someone else take the lead when it's their turn.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's why I think it makes a more balanced discussion when we have the three of us. It's almost like people, process, and data conversation here, because that's
Right.
that's how, you know what I mean? I think that's almost, really that combination integrated works really well. But I'm looking forward to the ability for us as a group to identify best practices, like, say, Cribmaster, for instance, when people are trying to come up with a safe and secure way for material distribution or material security. John, is that a fair way to summarize high top level of Cribmaster?
Yeah, it's security and availability, right? It's really, if I had to sum it up with the one word, it's the one word Motorcycle Mike came up with. It's trust.
Trust.
I trust that it's going to be there.
So for those that don't know about what they are, would you describe a couple of their high hitters, some of the stuff we put in at, say, in Chicago or other places?
Yeah, so it's really all about, it's two major pieces. There's the database itself that you really list out everything that you need and you want to have on hand, and putting mins and maxes on those things. So it's just a basic, database for that. But the other part is the security part. And it's really that interaction with the database of being able to have anybody who has access to those parts be able to present themselves, whether it's by swiping a card or having an RFID badge or whatever it is, to have access to those materials and be able to say, I've taken this many of this thing out of stock, and that signal goes automatically back to the replenishment in a 100% pull situation, no forecast, none of that stuff. And really, that replenishment is what it's all about.
Okay, so question on that.
Sure.
All right, because what I'm trying to do is exemplify a smart technology, an Industry 4.0 thing.
Mm-hmm.
That someone can kind of learn from and take away, like, oh, maybe I should research that. It doesn't have to be, maybe Cribmaster we think is the premier because we've used it. It manifests itself how? Because there are vending machines for PPE and gloves where people swipe a badge. But what are some of the other mechanical things so that people can kind of get a clear vision of what, besides the database, which is a cloud?
Right.
What is it?
So we're going to get into a lot of the different products as product reviews in future episodes, but think of it as a vending machine, except that vending machine can have many different shapes and sizes. Some just like the kind of vending machine when you'd buy a candy bar, that size, and some as big as a whole container trailer that you actually enter the vending machine, pull all the different kinds of products you want out of it. And as you're walking out the door, it knows exactly what it is that you've taken, and it has credited your department and with what you've taken, and has already sent a replenishment signal to replace it.
Mike, what are your thoughts on systems as such?
COVID-19. So I had this discussion with a client yesterday. I said, hey, go review from a purchasing standpoint, go review your min-max, your reorder point, your Kanban levels, because demand has changed The usage of things has changed. Just take gloves, for example. You know, maybe maybe an employee used 2 pairs of gloves throughout an 8-hour shift. You know, one before lunch and one after lunch, just as an example. Right now, they may be changing those gloves. Therefore, my usage or my demand increased.
Right.
I had a nice conversation this afternoon about forecasting, and how we're in this new world where forecasting takes on a whole new environment, because we don't necessarily know what's going to happen next.
Right.
we,
Right.
we can't look to the past. We can't look to historical data and say, oh yeah, hey, we're going to continue on this trend, or this is our weighted moving average, or
Right.
there has to be a human touch to it as well. So,
Mhm.
and then that builds the trust, right? So now I
Well,
understand.
absolutely. I mean, you can think of how many tiers in a supply chain. What was that video? How many parts to a Corvette, or how many people does it take to make a Corvette or something? Where they go through and it takes so many thousand parts to make something, and how that supply chain is kind of like a big spider web. Things can go wrong anywhere inside of your supply chain, not only there, but inside your facility, right?
Sure.
So I want to see what happens when we start to focus our energy as a group on Industry 4.0 transformation, the things that it takes to become smart. And you don't have to have like, right? It doesn't have to, it can be like crawl, walk, and run. It should be crawl, walk, and run, should it not?
Absolutely. I think that there's a learning curve there, and it's not just implement it and set it and forget it, right? It's a tandem piece between the people and the technology.
Right.
So it's
Integrating people, process, and technology isn't easy. Right, Johnny?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, because in many cases, we have worked with clients and said, forget all about that you have an MRP or, these other predictive tools that you're not using well. Let's get back to the basics and say what goes into this product.
Right.
There, and then, build the trust back into the system once we really know how things are really being consumed.
Right.
So yes, I agree that the people, process, and technology is where we always end up. And sometimes it's the driver of those three differs. Sometimes the technology is good enough inside a company that you really can use the technology as the driver. But in many cases, it's process,
Right. Or lack of a system.
or lack of a system. Absolutely.
Or lack of an effective system.
Yeah, there's always a system, right? It's just
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that is something that we're going to when we reboot this thing, we're going to focus on some product reviews. We're going to have guests about it. We're going to do some different things to try to get the conversation going with people.
Right.
So if you subscribe to our YouTube page, please hit the subscribe button. Give us your comments below. Before we close out, I'd like to do a quick plus delta and committed action handshake from everybody to see if we can't make sure that everyone's voice is heard as we close this thing out. So Mike, you're the rookie for this young group. I think interested to know what your plus delta in action is coming out of your first The Lean Guys podcast.
So my plus is definitely not my addition to the team, but the team itself. I'm not saying that I'm the superstar or I'm making it better. I'm saying that we together are going to collaborate and make it better. My delta is to be more aware of comments, of suggestions, of discussion ideas. Hey, I liked this, I didn't like that. Hearing the voice of the customer, so to speak. I need to be more aware of that. And then my action is to bring a little bit of interesting humor to this group. And so I'd like to introduce a game to you guys
Okay.
that we're going to call Friends Knows. We're all friends. We all know things, but so Friends Knows. The rules are the game. I have 5 cards in my hand. You pick a number between 1 and 5. I give you that card, whatever's written on that card, and you tell a 1-minute story about that whatever word or phrase is on the card. Make sense?
Sounds fun.
It sounds fun, Johnny. Age before beauty.
Well, that makes me the I got it. All right, I'll go with number 2.
Number 2, popsicles.
Oh, popsicles. Yeah, I got a great story about popsicles. I don't have any stories about popsicles. No, but actually I do. We got these twin boys who live in this neighborhood, and they are free-range kids. There's no question about it. And they can't actually say popsicle. They say popicle. And they like to come up to our house in the summertime, play with our dog, and then ask us for popsicles. And it's pretty fun to have those kids come running up the driveway to do that.
But I think finding that common thing that brings two diverse groups together, right? Your family and them, the thing that brings you guys together are the popsicles.
Yeah. Those kids will remember that.
Absolutely, it could be simple like that.
Right.
All right. So is it my popicle? Is it my turn with popicle?
It is 1 through 5, not 2.
Okay, so I don't do popicle. I do get a whole new card.
Correct.
Okay, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hamsters.
Okay, I just told this story the other day on a family Zoom call because it was my brother's baby's virtual shower. How's that?
Nice.
My brother and I shared a room when we were younger, and we always had some sort of critter that was an addition to the dog that lived inside of our room. Sometimes my mom knew, sometimes she didn't. In this particular case, it was a hamster who had a cage, and we just thought it should be free range. So we kept the cage open, and one day we couldn't find the hamster, and there was construction going on in our house. So when I tell you a year goes by and the hamster's been missing, that's exactly what I mean. And my friend and I had come home, and I don't know if we were in early college or something by this point. We came home from being out, and all of a sudden my friend goes, "Did something just scurry across the front of the living room?" And I'm like, "No, I mean, like, my mother keeps this place spotless, right?" We flick the lights on. All of a sudden in the corner, we see this hamster. And it's the hamster. It's missing half an ear. It's got like a scar striped down its back. And it was then lived its life out as Hampy from hell. And so there you have it. You asked.
That is hysterical.
Yep. I appreciate the honesty and openness.
Okay, bud, you got it. We cared for it. We loved that thing until its last day. It lived its day in old happy Hampy. But it was Hampy from hell. All right, so that was great. Johnny, I wasn't expecting the committed action to be an awesome game. So, Johnny, good luck topping that.
Oh, yeah, well, so my plus, I am going to agree with Mike. I love this threesome that's going on here. I think that this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to doing this more, even with guests and those things. My delta is... I don't know, maybe get an AC into this office, because right now it is so darn hot, and I'm sure that, I'm glowing here. But regardless of that, my action is that I'm going to be calling my good friend Mike Myers, another Mike.
Mike.
He's going to be Mustang Mike. And we are going to pick one of the Cribmaster products that we will do a review.
Nice.
And that will be posted real soon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. My plus is that we learned from the experiment of two lean guys and created a completely new opportunity that's focused on being relevant to the urgent demands that are on everybody right now.
Right. Good.
My delta is that I'm still learning about being online and learning online, and there's sort of, you know, an analog creature poking around in a digital world almost, and I'm having fun exploring it, like, no doubt, you know, as evidence of the new gear. It's like a new hobby to some degree. So my delta is what I don't know about all this stuff. And then my committed action is to continue to research it and to experiment and to try to have fun when I'm doing it, because it's more fun, you know, with your friends on this thing, kind of not joking about it, but bringing some levity to it. We're not here to be, you know, Joe's guru, regurgitated TPS systems guys. And I think we can bring a relevant voice to the demands for Industry 4.0. And that's where I'm at, is to build our brand around that.
Yeah, I love it.
All right.
Fantastic. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. So for now, I'm Uncle D. We'll check you next time with the Lean Guys. Peace.
Peace out.